of whether Jesus is alive is the most important question that we can ever ask in our lives. Why? Because it changes absolutely everything. But we don't want to just take it as quote-unquote gospel. Hey, did you like that? Did you like that? We're going to ask a few people just to share about how Jesus is alive to them. So I'm going to invite Shona and Cassidy forward. I want James to come forward. I want Kathy to come forward. I want Maureen. Where's Maureen? Yeah, we'll have a round of applause for these people that are coming forward. Yeah. And I think that's it. And we'll go to Maggie as well. Okay? So we're just going to, so everyone can see you, Shona and Cassidy. We're just going to bring you up here. Is that okay? Yeah. Round of applause for Shona and Cassidy, everyone. So, I'm going to ask you both about a time when you prayed and what happened when you prayed to Jesus, okay? All right, go on, Shona.
So one day my mum wasn't feeling very well, so I prayed for her, and then after 15 minutes she felt much more better and more herself.
That's fantastic news. How did it make you feel, Shona?
Very happy.
Very happy, brilliant. And Cassidy, how about you? Time when you prayed to Jesus and what happened?
So once I wasn't really feeling very well because I had pain in my stomach and I felt very sick. And then I went up in my room to lie on my bed, and then I prayed to God. And then God, at the end of my rest, after an hour, God healed me.
Fantastic. Jesus answers prayer. Jesus is alive. You can go and sit down, Shona and Cassidy. Fantastic. Kathy? Now, we were at Blueprints last week, and you shared something that just made us all want to burst out into tears. Can you share with us why Jesus has been alive to you over the last year?
Yes, hi guys. So for this last year, we were told to look back on our year at Blueprints, and I realized that this last year I've been really encountering God in so many more ways. For example, I've just been growing to really love the Bible as I've been reading it, and I've been really encountered God's love through the friends that I've made. I've made really true friendships in the past year, and I feel really seen and heard for probably the first time in my life, which is amazing.
Isn't that amazing? Thank you, Kathy. You can go sit down. Bruna. I forgot about Bruna. Where's Bruna? Come on, Bruna. We'll get James while Bruna's coming forward. So James was out on Edge Hill campus this week together with the YWAM team. Something pretty exciting happened, didn't it?
Yeah. So when after the evangelism, Rodrigo got a word from God about someone who's had back pain. And I was just sitting next to him, and he asked me if I had the back pain, and I did.
Why did you have back pain, James?
Well, a few years ago, I fractured a vertebrae in my back. And so Rodrigo prayed for the healing, and while he was praying for me, I felt a heat on my back, and then it was healed instantly. Yeah.
That's not it, guys. There's more.
And then he asked if I had one leg shorter than the other, which I didn't know I did have, but I did. So he prayed for the growth in the leg, and yeah, it grew. And then he did the same for my arms, and it grew as well. So yeah.
They actually have video proof of the arms growing. So if you want to see it, catch Rodrigo, catch James at the end. Jesus is alive. Thank you, James. Bruna? Come on, Bruno.
Hey everyone, my name is Bruna. I am a part of YWAM team from Brazil. It's a pleasure to be with you today. This week we were doing evangelism in the uni, and our team found a lady who had pain in the right knee, and she couldn't knee down. So she was already Christian, and she was from Africa, and our group gave her prophetic words, and she had an encounter with Jesus, and she was completely healed by Jesus, and it was so nice to see what Jesus is doing in Southport, and it's a pleasure to be a part of this. So if you want prayer for healing, we are able to do it. Feel free to come to us.
Brilliant, isn't it? I just wonder, Bruna, how is it for you knowing that you can go and you can lay hands on people and in the name of Jesus, they can be made well?
Well, it's a pleasure because we feel the Holy Spirit working through us. So we feel like we're fulfilling the Great Commission. So it's a pleasure to be a part of what Jesus is doing.
Because Jesus is alive. Fantastic. Thank you, Bruna. Last but not least, Maureen. Oh, no, we have Maggie as well. Oh, Maureen.
Okay. All right. I know a lot of you have already heard my wonderful news that God heals. But for those who don't, I want to tell you that 13 years ago, I was diagnosed with bowel cancer. And I actually had a really bad diagnosis. And they thought I wasn't going to live much longer than 5 years. And praise God, it's 13 years ago, and I'm still here praising God. But 18 months ago, I had really bad pain in my leg. I went to the doctor, and, well, I didn't even go. It's a phone call, isn't it, these days? And I had a blood test, and the GP rang me up and said, I'm sorry to tell you, but you have got myeloma, which is a blood condition to cancer. So I was taken back a bit, but I put the phone down, and then I immediately picked it up, and I rang my friend Jeff here, and I said, I've just been told I've got myeloma. And the Bible says, call the elders of the church, they will anoint you with oil, they will pray for you, and you will be healed. And so the leaders of the church, they gathered around me, and they prayed for me, and I went for the appointment 2 weeks later. And the consultant was looking at the papers, and he lifted his head up, and he said, I don't think you've got myeloma. And I went, praise God, my prayers have been answered. And that's 18 months ago, and you can see I'm still fit and well, and God is good God, and I give him all the glory.
Jesus is alive.
Several years ago, I was diagnosed with glaucoma, which is quite damaging to the eyes. And earlier this year, I went for an appointment at the hospital. Then I got a letter to say, your eyes have deteriorated quite considerably. And following that, some weeks later, I went to the optician because I needed new glasses. Hadn't had my eyes tested for a while. And the optician said, well, you're borderline as to whether you'll be able to drive or not. And my license was due for renewal, because it's got to be, when we reach a certain age, we have to renew our driving license every 3 years. And mine was up for renewal. Anyway, I did share this with the Connect group and also with the worship team when I was there. And we prayed, and God is so good. On Thursday, I got a new driving license. But for 3 years, I thought they're going to want to test me next year, but they didn't. It's 3 years, so God is so good.
Amen. Thank you, Maggie. I heard a story not too long ago of a guy who had started a church in Istanbul. And he said that one day a woman turned up on her own, which is very, very unusual. And she was dressed in a full hijab. And they just invited her in and let her sit down. And the guy got up and he started speaking the word. And he shared about the story of the lost sheep. And the story of the lost sheep, for those of you that don't know, is a sheep goes off and wanders, and the shepherd leaves the 99 sheep to go and find that one lost sheep, carries that sheep on his back, and then brings the sheep back home. And as this guy is sharing this story, the woman who has come on her own gets really, really excited. And so they stop the meeting, such is the disruption. And they say, would you like to share? And she said, this story is about me. Would you like to share? So she started to share. She shared, I'm from Syria, and I knew the time was now for me to leave that nation. I needed to get out. And so I gathered all the money that I had to pay for people smugglers to get me out of the country so that I could come to this place. And so what I did is I went and I paid them. They said, you're going to have a lorry trip to this mountain area, and then you've got to go through the mountains, and you'll get into Turkey, and then you'll be okay. So off she goes, and she goes into the lorry, and they travel for hours and hours and hours, and there's loads of people in this truck. And they arrive at the mountains, and the lorry driver, he opens it and lets everyone out, and he stops the woman. He says, I'm afraid this trip will be too difficult for you. You will not make this. This is too hard. It's impossible. She said, well, can you take me a bit closer? Can you do something about it? I can't do anything. And he closed his doors, and he just drove off. And this man comes up to this woman, and he says, can I please carry you on my back? I want to carry you on my back, and I'll take you through the mountains. Are you sure? Yes, I'm absolutely sure. And so he puts her on her back, and he goes through the mountains, and he goes, and he walks, and he goes, and he walks. And finally, at last, after hours and hours and hours of walking, she finally is set down on her feet, and she's through to the other side. She is totally safe. And she turns to him and she says, can I please at least know your name so that I can pray for you? And he said, my name is Jesus. And in a few weeks' time, you're going to meet a group of my followers and you're going to come into a family. Jesus is alive. And whether it's healing, whether it's being set into a family, whether it's finding new friendship, whether it's finding new meaning and new purpose, it's not about Jesus coming into our lives, but us stepping into him and seeing his kingdom brought into earth and his will done on earth just as it is in heaven. It's the Great Commission. There's nothing like it. And it's our privilege to be a part of it. And today, wherever you are in your faith, you can come and you can step in. And you can lay a hold of that which Jesus has given and live life in all of its fullness.